order to really receive that, you might have to be up in the middle of the night. You might have to be a little offline because you're headachy. You might have to remove lots of entities and renegotiating contracts and reversing psychic attacks. Thank you for coming. Thank you for staying. I'm here to share with you the beautiful transmissions from the walls of my cavernous heart and to witness the great frequency shift that we are moving into as a collective and the beautiful deep work that we are doing as we glide into the age of Aquarius. This is the Liminal Frequencies podcast. Let's go. Welcome to the show. I wanted to share with you before we dive into the solar threshold initiation that we've been in, the significance of the owl. And in Celtic mythology, the owl related to the screaming banshee, and how the banshee was a warning of impending death. And there's other parallels to the goddess in her crone aspect and the goddess Cailleach, crone of the night. The barn owl is considered the white old woman of the night. And this is the goddess of death. And it was often another omen that somebody was going to die. And so these themes that are coming through in Scorpio season of death and rebirth, navigating the mystical and navigating the underworlds, that is so ripe right now in November, just coming out of Halloween and being closer to the dead. So I want to share with you my experience with communicating with the dead and with spirit. So get out your popcorn, because it's not an episode without popcorn. I have said that I will never buy popcorn that's pre-popped because it's like paying somebody to have your fun for you. And let's dive in. Hello out there. How is everybody faring the solar storms that we've been having? And I've been talking about solar flares for years, but I guess the recent storm, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association put out a warning for X 5.41 solar flares. They were supposedly part of a greater solar storm that's been going on, where there was radio blackouts in South America, and this is the strongest one since last October and the strongest one of this year. Our sun is putting out some heat. We're also coming out of the 1111 portal that we just experienced, and it just seems like we're at a bit of a threshold right now with everything that's going on, several initiations that people have been going through, and just up leveling our growth. I have a friend that's writing about entities and the 5D spiritual stuff that happens, and she's experiencing the initiation of, right, the backlash. The closer we get to that light, the deeper the shadow it casts, and the more we have to be really on our shit to make sure that we are safe and protected and that we're walking the talk, I guess. Anybody out there who's walking the talk, please come forward now. This was probably the last thing I wanted to do right now, was do a solar show. It's been quite a while, and I've had just some grief related initiations in the last couple of months, and I'm just noticing that we move closer to the spirit realm this time of year. We had Halloween, And I experienced, like, I want to call it the loss of my inner child, this beautiful human being that I felt was just like my inner child. And I am so lucky that this person came into my life when they did, and that the experiences that we had, things I'll remember, the things I just really want to replay and just go to those places and do those things again and have those experiences. So beautiful. And being able to love somebody and witness them on the other side is really strange and interesting as well. I had planned this 10-year anniversary with my friend Sunny. We facilitate workshops together. We're such a good team. And this party had all the little inner child things. Like, I even got applesauce. I want to do applesauce cake stands and this constellation workshop that my parents participated in, which was incredible. A great opportunity for me to do the ancestral work with them. And a dad joke contest and a little open mic session, some jams, some cute icebreaker questions, and gathering with a group. And yeah, crayons. There were a couple kids there, which was really nice. And a pizza party. And this was something I've been planning since the summertime. It was just a vision I had to come together with a community that supported me in creating this career for myself. And it's just changed so much in so many beautiful ways, and so much that I do. Like, yeah, the spiritual work, the last episode I did on creative emotional wizardry, that's been something that's just skyrocketed things. I've definitely been seeing beyond the veil before that, but I have this system that I can receive numbers from my guides based on a system of clearings that Randall Roberts came up with. And they go from psychic attacks, energy vampires, to people having a death wish, people checking out, to Mercury Retrograde, anything spiritually that can go awry. There is a code for it to correct that and support it. So this was just a beautiful gathering. And I told my friend, if you could bring like enough stuffed animals to fill up a kiddie pool, I would love to just all dive in and make a splash, just have this cuddly gathering, this chill zone. And this was about a week before that my friend passed. And it was really devastating. It asked me to dig and go to some places that I really haven't visited, and to feel this depth and to feel really inconsolable. And I told a couple of friends, I can't even hold space for myself right now. I can't even console myself and parent myself. My friend says, you don't have to. This is not your time to do this. This is your time to lean on the people in your life that love you. And so, yeah, what a beautiful initiation for me to, uh, yeah, it's really hard work. And we really are wired to want to avoid the grief and move to something else. And yeah, it's really difficult. I spent some extra time with some friends down in Portland area, and I got some support. That was my community, and that was really sweet. I brought stories about my friend to this constellation workshop. Instead of telling this mythology story, I brought my stuffed elephant named Ricky that he gave me at a festival this summer. And I just told silly stories, and Ricky channeled a song for me that I had been working on. And it was really something that was like a flower that grows in the cracks of a city. It was something so beautiful that I wasn't prepared to show up. Even I am sure people would have understood if I canceled the gathering, but my parents already had a flight and I wanted to show them my world. And so, yeah, it was really lovely. My good friend told me afterwards, we talked about elephants, and she said that elephants were traditionally honoring the dead. So elephants will surround the dead, the whole entire herd, and they'll come back to the body for days or even weeks after they've passed, often probing the body with their trunks gently or covering them with branches. So this is the similar burial ritual that we have as elephants do. It's really interesting too because I think about Orca that was in the Puget Sound and she was carrying around her dead infant for several weeks and after it had passed. And it's really interesting how the cultural significance of how we vary from animals, how oftentimes we're a lot more attached or connected to each other than animals. Just they lose a child and they have to move on because that's the wild. There's not a lot of time to grieve, and I think that's how we often feel in this life. And so in this constellation workshop, I was able to bring my story of recently encountering a loss in my life and my friends group. And people were also able to bring into the circle a feeling of loss that they might be still working on. Jupiter went into Cancer around, I believe it was June, and that's my 12th house. So that's my house of death and the unconscious. And my connection to the spirit world is hopefully not too much more actual death. But the first thing that happened when Jupiter went into Cancer is I heard from my dad that their dog had passed away or they were having to put their dog down. I believe it was that day. And it was the same day as my aerial performance. It was my first ever circus performance. And so it was a lot. It was a lot for me. And I don't really feel that connected to that dog, but just the connection to my dad and the conversation that we have and feeling like it was a big part of him to lose that. And yeah, and so I've been taking myself sort of into power saving mode. And I had been just doing so much, producing the podcast, having workshops, having events, ceremonies, and doing some online things as well. And just my output levels have been pretty intense. And since that happened, I just realized that the things that I value, I need to hold them. I need to spend more time in nature with myself, just contemplating life and the universe and spirit. One thing that was interesting was the actual spirit of my friend attaching to me and feeling a palpable discomfort in my heart and working with a couple of different Akashic Records practitioners to help support me resolving that in a way and getting my friend the support that he needs out there. I'm not a spirit hospital. I'm not getting child support for the work that I'm doing with the spirits. And I know that this is part of my calling and my path is to be connected and communicate with the spirit world, usually through supporting people. But sometimes there are energies that come in to connect with me. And for me, setting those boundaries and finding those ways of communicating that is important. And at first, it wasn't really clear. I was okay with holding my friend for a little while until he got his sea legs out there in the cosmos. And I remember coming back from his memorial, which was down on the Columbia River, and I was going back up to Washington, and I decided I absolutely needed to go get in the water and go surfing. And I wanted to take him surfing when he was planning a camp out, and realized that it was so windy that day, and there's a huge undertow at that particular beach, so it wouldn't have worked. But I was like, finally, I'm going to take my friend surfing. And I went out there and I saw this seal not too far from me, like less than 10 feet. And after the surf session, I was driving back home and I saw this amazing rainbow. It was nothing I'd ever seen. It was just a fat rainbow, and it went from red and then to green and then back to just started over, and it was like almost a rainbow and a half. And it was just very clear to me in a lot of these moments that there was a presence, and almost feel bad for people who don't have this connection to spirit, because I feel that we're not alone, like, ever. And yeah, it just really felt my friend with me. But I had to resolve this having a spirit attached to me. And, eventually was able to communicate with him and get the support of the angels, the cloud angels, to hold him, and so that we could communicate. And we've had several conversations. But I believe it was shortly after Halloween that I found out about another friend that passed away, just totally untimely, both of them really unfair. And I spoke to him about a month ago. I found out that he was engaged and he seemed pretty happy, but I remember him posting something on the social about he didn't want to bury any more of his friends. And this has just been a really trying and difficult time for people. And especially in the fall, a lot of people pass away, and it's almost like you wanted to have that last summer, and then after you had that summer and it was over, it was okay to just move on and move forward. So I feel that this just created a sense of existential dread for me, just feeling really things are just not quite right in the world. And I know that people feel the same way about a lot of the current events that are going on right now. And it's really important to find that time to tap into yourself and into spirit and into your own personal offerings. I always get a lot of nourishment. It's like liquid honey from Coco Pa Turner, and her book is called Belonging. She says, don't just give your gifts to people. Give relevance to the invisible by leaving offerings at rivers or sowing prayer flags for the forest. Build cairns on mountaintops. Oh, well, don't do that. Because of leave no trace. But anyways, I think that's just a funny little joke in there. Plant wildflowers in parking lots and live your life as if it were an endless offering of beauty. Any small crumb of thanks we give to the holies make them come alive with delight. The more we remember our invisible helpers, the more they remember us. Our days get progressively plumper with significance. The woodpecker drumming on the roof like a winged shaman reminds us how thin the veil between worlds is. The warm breeze through the sugar maple is whispering a secret for our ears, and the friend we bumped into was sent by our own longing. I love how she says sugar maple, and I just said liquid honey. I was sitting on my bed today, and I realized that the picture that I hung right in front of my bed in my van is an owl. It's a barn owl. And it was just looking at me. I could just feel it looking at me. And the owl has been a creature that has come through on the other sides of the veils as well. So I believe that when I heard about my parents' dog passing, I was coming back from my aerial performance and there was owls swooping in the trees and I just stopped for a while and stared at them. And then the next person that passed, the next morning after I found out, I drove off of the property and I saw an owl swoop by. And they've come in at really powerful times, but I've never really noticed that actually owls are the loved ones coming to visit us. And about a week before my friend passed away, I had a client come in and she said, I'm moving to Australia and I can't take these with me. And she brought these beautiful owl feathers. And she told me that she found them on the ground when her dad passed away. And basically, she didn't know, but she felt something's a void and she found them. And it was this connection. They were crisscrossed on the ground. And it's so strange that the timing that she brought them to me and was like, you need these. Here's your message from spirit. So there are senses of injustice with all of this that, it wasn't fair. It wasn't the right time. This person loved life. And there's also a sense of divine timing and order that may be revealed after some time of grieving and just holding the space for people in my life that were close to both of these friends and being the glue that both of these people were in the community and allowing people to come together in that love for them and in that despair. So I'm curious how you all listening hold space for your own grief and your own despair, and how you let the longing in your heart linger and create this space that you can maybe join yourself in. The loneliness can just create a space within us. And I find the more we avoid it and the more we get overstimulated and dive into our work, the less that we can actually just stand in that space and be present with ourselves and the loving presence of our own selves, our offerings to ourselves, is what fills that hole of loneliness and turns it into just a beautiful peak that we can then climb. So in this precipice, this threshold of our own initiation, we are finding places where we may have abandoned, we may have lost our way, we may be getting reminders and nudges from spirit to reconnect, to tap back into those habits, those practices that help us to stay whole and to feel connected. We may be moving more, we may be enjoying a song even more deeply than we did before. But I feel the veil just completely shredded during this time, and more light coming in from the sun than ever has before. It just really opens things up into an incredibly new world where before we may have not seen the path forward because of our limitations, but we are still in this closing ceremony of Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. The planets went into Aries for a few months earlier this year, and we got a taste of what it was going to be like to go full speed ahead into our new mission, whatever that is, our new plan. And I believe it was after my friend passed in mid to late October when Neptune finally came out and went back retrograde into Pisces. And Saturn had been in Pisces for maybe a month before that, maybe early September. And these shifts were bringing us into full circle completion and closure for what I'm feeling is like an old paradigm, an old way that we're parting with. And with that, we're not just closing the door on that, we're closing the door on parts of ourselves. This is the year of the snake, really fully shedding so we can move into the year, I believe, of the iron horse. I'm hearing iron horse. So we can move forward with this new paradigm that we're holding, that I think there's some remnants of it being introduced, but culture is just totally changed. Nothing is really black and white anymore. We have a lot of movements of people expressing themselves in different ways than they ever have expressed themselves. And now we can really open that up for unlimited possibilities. But we still exist in kind of a weird paradigm. And right now, the government's been shut down for like a record amount of time, right? We're clearly seeing the effects of this isn't aligned. And in order for us to make the big cosmic shift on a global scale, we still first have to make this inner shift. And that, my friends, it feels like what November is about is this deep inner shadow work, upgrades. If you've been waking up in the middle of the night with the solar flares, if you've been having headaches and neck pain, your cranium is expanding, right? You're opening your mind to new ideas and new possibilities. You're maybe just downloading a bunch of solar codes and just being blasted with it. And in order to really receive that, you might have to be up in the middle of the night. You might have to be a little offline because you're headachy. You might have to remove lots of entities and renegotiating contracts and reversing psychic attacks and removing fallen angels. Oh, it just goes on and on and on, doesn't it? I know it's exhausting, but I'm here. I'm here if you need me. Like I said in the last show, there's a handful of you listening, and I love that. And don't be a stranger. Okay, bye for now.